This is your daily market review for Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. Let's go.
Hey everyone, this is my channel to help investors and traders develop a probability-based mindset to succeed. Also try and keep friends informed of what's going on in the markets and the economy, and also a little real estate content as well. This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka The Trading Agent. This is your daily market review for Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. Hopefully you're having a great day. Wide and loose day, a typical options expiration day, up and down, up and down, up and down. However, we talked about usually the market will go one direction one part of the week and another part. Betting on it now seems like up was the early part of the week. Again, the reaction to the CPI data, as we talked about, coming down. It's pretty expected. You've got a lot of the 13 Fs coming out right now, and they're showing some people buying, showing some people selling, liquidating some positions, all sorts of fun stuff. Again, a lot going on. Let's dig into it to know the levels, talk about what to expect, what are the probabilities, what are the potentialities coming up. So new to the channel, check out the Discord room, link in the description below. I appreciate it. So the 13 Fs we'll talk about. Again, there's going to be some names that probably pop based on their performance being added to portfolios. Remember, this is delayed information. This is not up to date. This is what they have to release every quarter, if I remember correctly. Sorry, my brain is just, I've been on a 3-day fast, and wow, my brain is kind of getting cooked. And so knowing that, yeah, it's Q2. They have to disclose, but then it's also options expiration. And this is where it gets a little tricky, right? Is because what they did last quarter doesn't really necessarily matter. Now, a lot of people will say, okay, it does, but they could be changing any point, any position. And now we know certain Buffett names, certain big guys will be doing certain things. So just be careful. We know going the rest of the week. Tomorrow is actually retail sales, New York Fed, industrial production, business inventories, NAHB, and you got Walmart and BABA, AMAT and Deere after the close. I mean, tomorrow might be the day, again, where it gets a little hairy. And again, we saw the volatility today pick up a little bit, not necessarily the VIX, but just the action getting wide and like tight and kind of bouncing all over the place. Again, the levels matter. So if you're new to the channel, check out the Discord room, link in the description below. I appreciate if you check out the Twitter, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm telling you, tons to do. Education videos all over the place. If you have a chance and you want to talk, hit me up. Check out the live Zoom chats. It's in the Calendly link. Let me know. Again, check out the website, thetradingagent.com. I'm telling you, so many good resources, so much good information. If you're struggling, need help, have questions, do not hesitate to reach out. All right, not LinkedIn. We know going into the next meeting, again, I've refreshed this. It's been kind of flipping around the 50% level. We know there's one cut coming. It's whether we get two. And again, the only way you're going to get two is if the economy starts falling off a cliff. If it falls off a cliff, well, then you're going to get the 50 basis point. Just keep in mind, though, I was reading today, the Fed Fund Future is already priced in at 8 rate cuts at some point. Again, I've said this and I will go on record. I think the safest trade is the TLT and buying bonds, especially if you're trading around your positions. That's so easy. It's going to go up, right? When I mean up, TLT is going to get bought. Yields, I think, are going to come down. How far? I mean, that's the hardest part to know for sure, but it's safe. And I think that's the thing, right? It's safe. Be careful with that. So Bitcoin, we've talked about this, chopping around. Don't overthink it. Again, I trust the stuff when the Feds pivot, but until then, it could be choppy and sloppy. We had the biggest VIX drop sequentially, which is crazy because it's never seen that. Never seen that. We've seen the VIX 65 down to 16 in like 7 days. That's crazy. Oil chopping around. Is you surprised? Again, we talked about the geopolitical risk. I don't see there's much like overall downside long term. It's just, again, I think you have to be very careful with oil. Please be careful because, again, I think longer term, you're fine. Short term, not so much. Natural gas, chopping around. It looks good to me. Again, we've talked about, are you surprised that it would bounce off support? No, that's why the levels matter. That's what we talked about. Okay. Again, everyone got real excited there. They got excited here. Got excited here. Okay, now you're back into some resistance. Look over here to the left. Will it go much higher? I mean, that's, in my opinion, I think I would lay off this stuff. Again, commodities, be careful. Dollar, this gap down, this action today all over the place. I mean, it feels like the dollar's toast. TLT again, easiest trade in the world. I said, we talked about, all right, hits the upside targets, take profits, right? Pulls back to support, starting to bounce. Next resistance is like 108. I mean, again, I don't know if we'll get there in a straight line, but I mean, again, if you see the 101s, 104s, somewhere in that range, pretty good. If you bought the UBT down at 19, 18 and change, you're looking pretty good. And again, I wouldn't be surprised to see 24, 25. So if you bought that at 25% gain on your portfolio, not too bad. Or your stock. VIX, chopping around. And this is the biggest VIX crush I've ever seen. That's wild. How much lower? I don't know. It doesn't really make sense, but we'll see. The VIX is back at support levels, so keep an eye on that. SPY coming into the 50-day, right? Chopping around. This is where it gets a little interesting. Talk about these novice gaps. They're not sustainable. Keep an eye on it because, again, I think we might get crushed. QQQ acting kind of squirrely here. Talking about trapping today. Look for the left-right combo here. Green, doji, red, or could we pop up one more time? That's tough to say. IWM was lagging. That kind of gives me hope for the bears and bulls, kind of like the volatility, meaning that the VIX is going to do what they're going to do during OPEX. For the bulls, I mean, you should have taken profits. For bears, it gives you plenty, I think, really good opportunities to short. Again, define your risk. Define your risk. Know what you're willing to lose before you even trade, y'all. That's the key. Getting up to the 20-day. Gold. Now, this is where I think gold gets interesting to me because, again, I'm not sitting here saying I think you need to go crazy shorting it. But it actually makes sense up here, like pulling back. You have range highs. You have silver not confirming. Right? I think the miners is the short. It's not necessarily gold. It's the miners. Break the 20-day. We talked about the trap over the 20-day. It looks like it's trapping over it. Again, just define your risk. You only you hit enter. And this makes sense to me, pulling back at some point again, because when the market if the market starts getting squirrely again, miners will get crushed. We talked about that. Talked about it. AEM holding up pretty darn well. AG chopping around. This one's been pummeled. Newmont chopping around near resistance. Okay. And when you zoom out, it's like longer term. There's bigger moves potential in all of these, especially like past all these minor names. But here's the thing, right? First stage bottom is pretty gnarly. And it's, again, in my opinion, if history repeats, you don't want to be early. Taiwan Semi, getting into tech. This is where it got a little squirrely today. Again, I was watching this one like, 2-day range. Keep an eye on it. Micron. I mean, these names have been oversold. We talked about that. Look at this gap up. Hits the 20-day, hits the 200-day. Let me look at the 10-minute because I'm trying to think of any after hours action in some of these names. Nope. Again, you hit references like we talked about. AMD was, up all day. Talked about this 140s. All right, keep an eye on it. NVIDIA, congrats if you're long it. Now you get the doji, the 50-day. I mean, again, if you see the 50-day, pull the trigger. I mean, I'm pulling the trigger. I'm probably waiting until tomorrow, maybe even Friday. There's a lot of good references here for shorting. SMCI, again, you come off the high, 140 down to 92. You bounce to 120. It's a perfect fib. SMCI, again, I think this thing goes in the 400s. Hasn't had any bounce. Intellectual property, this thing's been a turd. I wonder if anyone added this in their portfolios. We talked about dead cat bouncing and chopping. I personally just leave it alone. SMH, again, we like, I like the SOX this year. I mean, look at this. Could you squeeze up real quick? I mean, it's always possible. But the risk reward makes sense, especially on the SOXs. I mean, look at what it did. Went from 40 down back to 25. See what I'm saying? Like if there's more down, there's a lot of room in these stocks to go. Adobe chopping around. Like this trend line, 200-day, talked about it again. Know your levels. Apple popped up at the open, kind of chopping around. Again, it feels like a multi-day trap, like an island floating reversal. Remember, the island can be multiple days. It doesn't have to be one day. Wick into the close. Amazon chopping around here at the 200-day. Little look above potentially. I mean, could you always go a little higher? It's possible. Meta. Oh man, this is an interesting area up here. Again, all of these are on your short list, in my opinion. Again, define your risk. If you're wrong, you're wrong. It's just don't sit here and have blinders on. Either way. CRM, chopping around. Nothing really much to say. I mean, Google, potential breakup. I think if they broke up, it'd be more valuable because all the pieces, but we'll see. Hits the range or hits his blue zone, backing off. Microsoft, chop, 20-day, NDAQ. Not really, again, this is on my short list. Easy. MicroStrategy seems to be leading. Bitcoin breaks. I mean, it makes sense. This is going to pop back down. I will not be surprised to see the 100 level on this at some point. Netflix holding up again. Why? I don't know. Good question. Nice rally back. Again, this is where you define your risk. If you had short, you're long, roll your stops, you're doing well. Roblox, If you're short, you got stopped out. We talked about the 40s being trouble. Not much to say. Pan W, again, said upside, right? Probably getting back into this box. Novice Gap, Wick. I mean, again, long term, I love it. I think they're going to do well. Pelosi's on it. It's just hard to buy right now. Again, hard to buy. Tesla, why is it up, down, left, right, left, right? I mean, it's all over the place, y'all. I mean, it's a trading stock. That's all I can say. I don't believe in its long-term value. 50-day would make sense to me. Max upside near term. Insight, again, like this company, I think they get bought out, riding the trend line. Really want to see this down in the mid to low 50s. Pfizer, again, some of the homies in the Discord room are trading it. I mean, it's very clear. I mean, I hate to talk about what happened, that plane crash. All those people were going to talk about mRNA, whatever, technology being linked to other diseases. Seems like a spot it would hold. Again, don't want to get political or physical, whatever, just trading. McDonald's chopping around, really got not much on it. DKNG, again, we've talked about this being oversold, gapping down. Today's action, not very exciting. Opens up, gives it all back. Airbnb, another one, oversold. I mean, you're playing the oversold bounce game. And if you're playing it, cool. Just, I'm telling you, take your profits before the market takes them. Costco getting tight up here. This looks very interesting. Starbucks pops on a new CEO. Okay, we'll see. I mean, again, you're in a major zone. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised this goes nowhere for a long time. Could even pull back. FedEx, we talked about this one being oversold. You got the head and shoulders top, hitting the 50-day, chopping around. I'd be looking for somewhere in the 280s. Caterpillar, like the short a lot. Just, again, is it the 100-day or is it going to be the 20-day? And this is where ChopX gets very confusing. And if you're playing Cat, you got to be careful because Deere has earnings coming up tomorrow. Coming off the range lows. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, unless they absolutely just did terribly. This looks like a big consolidation pattern. Could it break down to the low end? Your good guess is good as mine. Nucor, again, material names, not looking so hot. X, again, we like these names, but just waiting for the feds to pivot and flood the market with liquidity. X, again, I think this gets bought out if, who else is elected. That's kind of my thinking on this, is that X will get bought out if one party wins versus another. If Trump wins, no way. VALE, we talked about this global growth name, just kind of dead cat bouncing. Arrow, same kind of thing, chopping around. CCJ, chop around, right? Again, we like these names on pullbacks. And here's the hardest thing about them is just being patient. You just got to be patient. We like ag names, again, like them long term, but they're just big choppy slop zones. Choppy sloppy. Talked about being oversold on some of these. Not surprised if they did bounce, but man, you're not really getting much. Aaron, again, you got to love aluminum long term. Big choppy ranges. Let them play out. XLF, frustrating. Added some more today. Fills the gap here. That's what I'm watching. That's kind of the play here. I like it. I like the FAS in the mid to low 9s. It makes sense to me. JP Mo, again, I can't believe anyone would be buying JP Morgan. They cannot even buy it. If they don't want to buy back their own stock, why do you want to buy it? Morgan Stanley, we've talked about these names all just kind of peaking, but the dead cat bouncing. The whole market bounced. Bank of America not getting much bounce, right? I mean, guess off the 200-day, but Buffett's getting out. Goldman Snacks, again, I like Goldman. I think they're going to hold up pretty well. Again, when it pulls back, though, they'll pull back. Carry every day, nothing to say. I mean, some of these junior banks are getting absolutely destroyed, y'all. So please be careful. XBI is a risk-on name. It's just been in a choppy, sloppy range. It's starting to get a little tired here. We talked about the housing index, right? I mean, if you see some prices on this, I mean, again, 20-day, I think it's a short. I mean, I'm seeing more and more inventory. I'm seeing price cuts. I mean, I'm not seeing anything bullish. But hey, you know what? Sometimes the market can as we call it, disengage from reality. It's part of the game and the economy. It's part of the game. That's why trading's not easy. Solar, we talked about any bounce, probably due to flop. Sedge, God, this thing's a turd. ENPH, really want to see like 119, 120. First Solar, we talked about any bounce. I mean, you're getting it. Now you're up against some references. 50-day would be ideal. HYG, I'm amazed anyone's buying corporate debt. Back at the range highs. Come on, you got to be kidding me. We'll see. Oil, I mean, again, geopolitically all over the place. Just be careful. UNG, I hate the UNG. We talked about that. It's decaying. Donkey. Not surprised, though. I mean, if you shorted the KOLD up in the 80s, this has been the play. I mean, again, probably take a little profit. Trade around it. Just do not hold on to anything. Like, it can't go anywhere but one direction. I'm telling you, that's you got to be careful. You got to be careful. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people who are just, I don't know, they just anticipate everything to go up. And again, natural gas downside is limited. I get it, but I don't trust it. XOP, again, I like oil and gas names. Got to be careful, though, going into this election. And there's a lot of wildness. CVE, again, we like these names. If Trump's winning, I like them way more. Valero, chopping around. Gasoline names just don't really show much. MPC, chopping around. Chop, 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 chop. ExxonMobil, again, looks like it's going to break out, but is it? Again, all these ranges matter. You got to go with, or you got to let them play out. Occidental. And when I say go with, like, all right, if it breaks down, it's going lower. If it breaks out, going over. If not, just stay away from a lot of these choppy, sloppy zones. But again, we keep an eye on them to give us insights on what's coming, right? EQT, again, we like this long-term, big, choppy range. I mean, it makes sense if it's due to bounce. Like, look at this thing, right? You're back at support. It's like a big M, a big funky M. And last but not least, like LNG. Like this long-term, I think will be natural gas exporters. Nice pop and then give it right back. So what do we know? Again, if you've listened this far, I'm telling you, the reminder is be aware of the next 2 days, choppiness. You have a lot of economic data. You've got some decent earnings the next 2 days. Again, if the market's up one part of the week, it's down the other. Again, watch the Back to Basics education series on options expiration. Again, is it a certainty thing? No, it's a probability-based thing. It doesn't happen all the time. But the markets do tend to repeat tendencies. And again, now that you got the 13 Fs, who's buying, who's selling, this might be a great opportunity, again, to take on what I'm telling you is, like, again, I like the idea of shorting here to define your risk. There's no reason to chase up, in my opinion, anything, nothing. So again, if you're long, define your risk, take your profits. If you're shorting, set your stop. You can only lose so much. That's the key to trading. So if you have any questions, again, please reach out. Again, if you're in the real estate market, please let me know how I can help you. Peace.